Hey there guys, this is Malorian, and this will be the next video in the Warmachine 101, and it's going to be now breaking into power attacks. And the first power attack I'm going to talk about is my favorite, and that's the slam. Now, the power attacks in general can be very situational. They can do very wondrous things, but often it's just better just to charge in and kill things, right? Why do something fancy when you can just kill the model instead? The slam is something that brings a lot of extra things to the table. You do have to have a little bit things set up in advance, but what we're going to be doing in this video is really telling you how slams work and the way that you can use them best and the situations you would want to be using a slam. So first of all, how does a slam actually work? Well, you can be doing this with either your heavy beasts or jacks or your light beasts or jacks. Both of them can do it. In fact, there's some other models that can do slams as well. Something like the Forge Guard can do crit slams. If you have something like the Bokur, it can go and do a slam attack as well. So there's a couple of them out there, but for the most part, they're going to be either your lights or your heavies. Now, when you want to do this, of course, for a power attack, it's going to cost you one focus, or you have to be forced for one fury to do it. You have to move directly towards the target that you pick. Now, if something else gets in your way before you get there, and it only has a range of ½ an inch, and so if you can't make that going straight, like you can't, like in a charge, you can go at different angles. A slam has to be directly at. And so if you're doing this and all of a sudden it hits a wall, if you don't have Pathfinder, if it hits another model, you just stop, and that's the end of the slam. So you have to make sure, like I said, that you have these things set up exactly straight to do it. Now, the other thing to make this thing work as well is you need to have at least 3 inches difference between you and your target. Now, if there isn't, you still get to make an attack roll. So either way, if you make it within ½ inch, you get to make an attack roll. Now, Let's talk about, first of all, what happened if you didn't go the 3 inches. You were 2.5 and it just wasn't what you needed. You get there, you make an attack roll, and then they're going to take a damage basically equal to your strength. So you don't add the POW for your weapon. It's just going to be 2d6 plus your strength, and then of course modified by their armor. So it won't actually do that well. Of course, that's replacing your initials. So if you're doing a slam within 3 inches, it's only because you misguessed how it's supposed to be. You don't want that to happen. Now, what happens if it is more than 3 inches? Well, first of all, you have to roll the hits, like I said. Now, that normally is just always the same. However, if you are actually trying to slam something that is a larger base size than yourself, you're -2 to hit. Now, for the most part, sometimes, I should say, that doesn't matter, because if you're trying to hit something bigger, like a jack, it has pretty low defense anyway. But, you know, if it is something like a Warp Wolf, that could be a big deal. So remember that if you are like a light, say like a Lancer from Signar, trying to slam a Warp Wolf, it's going to be pretty damn hard to hit that thing. So you might want to think, you know, twice about doing that. What's going to happen out next then is that it's going to be slammed d6 inches directly away from you. So you had to go directly towards the model, and then it's going to be slammed directly away from you. Now, during that path, it's going to really matter whether it comes into contact with other models. If it comes into contact with a model that is larger than it, it basically just stops and falls down. Nothing happens to that larger model. So say if I slammed a Juggernaut into a Conquest, the Conquest is going to be just fine. The actual target of what I hit, though, is going to take, again, a damage roll that's going to be equal to my strength, not my POW, plus 2d6. That one is boostable, and then it's going to be knocked down. Now, if it actually hit into something that was the same size, it'll stop, and then that target that I hit as well will also be hit with also a collateral damage, which is equal to the strength plus 2d6, but collateral damage you cannot boost. That's just whatever it is. Now, if it's a smaller model, it's actually going to travel over. So if I slam, say, like a Juggernaut into Sorsha, if it has distance to clear, it'll go right over Sorsha. Again, Sorsha will take that damage equal to the the strength plus 2d6, and will also be knocked down. Now, if you actually slam something into a building or into a wall, some sort of terrain that's like that, it's then going to take an extra d6 of damage. So that collateral or damage that's taking there is going to equal to 3d6 plus your strength. So that's usually a nice little benefit. It doesn't really come up that much, but it's something to really keep in mind whenever you can get an extra d6 of damage in there. Now, again, if you're something small, slamming something big, it still moves, but it's only going to move at half speed. So not too far, but it still goes through the whole slam procedure. As well, if you slam something through terrain, that's also going to be going half speed as well. So if you're slamming something into a forest, it's not going to go like if you rolled a 6 inches deep into there and then he's lost. He's only going to go in there 3 inches, and it's not as hard to get back out then. So there's your slams. As far as how it works, that's really it. So now, what are the situations where you actually want to be using a slam? Well, one of the reasons why you want to be doing a slam is to get something out of zones. If you have a heavy that's standing in the middle and it's like, wow, okay, they brought another heavy in to contest this zone, I could either try and go up and try and destroy it, but hey, I might get some bad rolls. Or I can just slam that heavy, and as long as I can hit, which would be pretty easy, and don't roll like a 1 or something for distance, I can just slam that guy right out of the zone, and that math is a lot better than having to get in there and hoping I'm doing enough damage to actually destroy it. So there's one. Another one could be that I might be slamming a beast or a jack to try and get it outside of control area. Again, if I could charge in there and kill it, I would. But hey, you know, if I can actually slam it outside of control area, that way I don't really need to destroy it, right? If it's a jack, it can't be allocated focus. If it's a beast with some frenzy or some fury on it, hey, it might freak out and then just do one attack and be done. You know, these things can be done. Again, it'll be very situational that things will be lined up that you can actually do that, but it's definitely something you want to be keeping in mind. Another reason why you might be doing slams, especially to jacks, is if there's water behind them. Now, if jacks are ever knocked down in water, basically their engine goes out and they go inert. So that is amazing. Now, that doesn't work with beasts, and you know, water isn't always that prevalent, but hey, if you got water on the table and you're up against a Warmachine army, try and line those up. So if they come at you again, why risk not being able to destroy them because of bad dice rolls or whatever? Just slam them, get into the water, and then ignore them for the rest of the game. Here's another one where you might be wanting to do a slam, and that's going to be for high defense. Now, let's say that you have a bunch of troops coming at you. Let's say it's Kayazi assassins, and they're super high defense, and if you want to try and hit these guys, it's just not really worth your time. What you can actually do is slam your own models through them. Now, again, this is where a lot of times, like, why would I attack my own models? Well, sure, you might be losing one of your own guys, but as you're lining up this nice bowling ball shot, you'd be killing a whole bunch of the enemy models. So, for example, we're going to be lining up a boom howler. The boom howler is going to go there. My old rowdy is going to slam into him. It's going to send that larger model over all those Kayazi, and pretty much whatever one it hits, it's dead. And then the nicest thing about being a boom howler too, hey, 4+, it's tough anyway, and I don't really care. So that can be a nice way to get past that defense. Now as well, that can be a great way to get past the high defense of other models, especially not units, but single ones, especially casters, like Sorsha. You have some of these casters that have ridiculous defense, and really if you try doing all the math about having to need to boost and even all the boosts that are going to miss, it's like, wow, I just can't assassinate this guy. However, if you can line up a slam, get them knocked down so that either range attacks are needing double ones or melee attacks are auto hitting, that caster's dead. And so that's a really big thing to look for. Now, you can be looking for slamming the opponent's models through there, but you really then would have to have like a perfect situation. What you're going to really need to do then is line up probably one of your own models. That way you can be showing your back. It's a lot easier to hit. You can make sure you have a larger model there, and it can be not too bad. keep in mind that if it's not a larger model, it's not going to go through. So let's say I'm trying to knock down Sorsha, and so I go and I slam a Risen into Sorsha. Now, let's say again, for some reason, the Risen survives. The way it works is that the model is going to hit Sorsha and stop. So that you have to keep in mind that if that target does survive, which a Risen probably wouldn't, but let's say it has Tough on it from Rupert, and it makes its Tough, it's going to be there in front of Sorsha. So if you're going and planning to follow up with melee, that's going to be an issue, because that model now is going to be in your way. If you're planning to shoot the target down after, you don't need to worry, because the models that are knocked down don't block line of sight. So you can slam that Risen into Sorsha, and then the Stormwall can walk up, and just, as long as you don't get double ones, you're going to shoot her up. If you are going for combat, you could also go for something with reach, or you could have a shooting model shoot down your own one first to get out of the way. There's a lot of different things here, but what I'm really trying to get to is the importance of the slam on these models. Sorry. Lately, I've actually been winning quite a few games just through slam, so that's where I thought I'd be doing this video. Another one too is where a lot of people don't understand about how the smaller models can actually slam the larger ones. Like I said, if I have a Lancer that needs to slam a Juggernaut out of the zone, it's only going to go half speed, but a lot of times when these heavies are going in to contest zones, they're just putting their little tippy toe in there. So even if you roll a 1, half an inch out, you clear the zone. So it's a very important thing to keep in mind. Like I said, it's not going to be there every single game. It's not always going to be the best situation to do. But if you remember those slams in the back of your head, you'll be in a much better position. So there you go. That's the slam power attack. Next time we'll be covering some other power attacks, and we'll hope to see you then. Bye.